You know, one thing I get all the time is you know, people, as you're at a show or whatever, they're talking about some miss you have or whatever, and that is what people want to talk about a lot of times is your failures. And so we have a lot to talk about. I've missed a lot of deer over the year, but a couple deer I do have that people like to talk about, and Huckleberry is one of them. Huckleberry is a deer that I shot in Kansas a few years back, and as we go through each year, we always look kind of back at a classic, and so that's what we dig in today.
Merritt.
You know, I have to start in Kansas the year before I started really after Huckleberry was a year that I'd went, I'd hung the sets, I'd scouted. This little farm was 240 acres set right on the Arkansas River right there. And it was just a little gem. I mean, just a little honey hole, if you will. You know, it had beans on it, had corn on it. It had that Arkansas River running through there holding a lot of deer, and made it where, you know, you had to use that river for your access in and out, you know, to make sure that you played that wind, that you didn't penetrate any of that big bedroom to bump those deer. And I'll never forget, maybe one of the biggest memories of my life, especially with my dad, is me and my dad had drove up to Kansas. He was excited, had a CVA muzzleloader in his hand, and we were gonna take off hunting up there. One morning I pulled in there, we were gonna have a pretty long walk. We snuck in there and we got in a big old cottonwood there, climbed up there that morning, probably 25, 27 foot up. We were looking for a big 6x6 is kind of what we went into to hunt. And so that morning as it got daylight good, we saw a few deer, and I looked up and I said, "Dad, there's a big deer." And I'll never forget, he said, "Is it the big one?" And I said, "No, but it's a big one."
Dad, big buck. Right over there. See him. He's gonna come his way.
Well, Dad makes the shot. I hold for pretty good footage, and he runs off, and I think he smoked him, but I'm not sure. You know how you always are, you're a little nervous, but finally we see him kind of go down over there, and we get down, and the celebration starts.
He's a good one, eh? Oh, man. Did you feel like you were on him good? Were you on him good? Oh, shaking like crazy.
Ooh, man, I can't believe this. Look at the body on him. God, I can't believe it. Oh, what a pretty animal.
You know, I tell everyone, if you can take your dad, you can take your kids, it is so, just such a heart-filling experience. And that's what I had with my dad sitting over that frog pond. So the next year, that's kind of where it starts with Huckleberry. You know, we were gonna start hunting him with a bow. In Kansas, you have early season there. You know, there's muzzleloader season going on at times, so we have to be in the orange. But we get to start hunting those deer in mid-September, and that was our plan with Huckleberry. We got his name because we were looking through the trail cam pics, and as we're looking, Daniel says, "There's your Huckleberry," when he pops up, and it just stuck. And that's the deer I wanted to chase that year. I wanted to go after Huckleberry and just see if I couldn't go head to head with him and get an area in him in that early season.
There's another one. Behind me. Oh, it's him.
You know, as I began to chase him, I mean, I started looking at weather, and I mean, you know how it is in September. You're dealing with, you know, hot weather. You're dealing with winds that might be 7 to 10 miles per hour until dark, and then they drop and they turn the other way. I mean, stuff like that, where these deer were so sensitive, and that you had to really watch us stepping on their toes. And that's what I was going to be dealing with. As I looked at this weather, I knew it was going to be cat and mouse. We were definitely probably only going to be able to hunt evenings, but we were going to try our luck going after Huckleberry. This buck here is, he's one that we called the long main beam 10 last year. He's got a real long main beam, but he got busted up early. And this year, one of the first pictures I got, I just said, there's my Huckleberry. So I've renamed him Huckleberry, and man, he's a good deer. Never laid eyes on this deer in my life, other than the camera pics. So we're getting in there very early, but the big deal here to me is, number one, we got the picture of him the other night with plenty of light to shoot him. Then the temperatures dropped 15 degrees, it's a high of 74 today. Probably around 7, it's all to be, you know, 55 to 58 degrees. These next 2 days is killing time here in September. So I started out going to a stand I call the Frog Pond. It's actually that same set where my dad had shot that big buck in late season with his muzzle loader. But we were going to go in there, and we were going to be pretty close to what we figured Huckleberry was bedding back there. But the big thing, I wanted to be there was water there.
My first hunt in Kansas, and I feel like I kind of already made a mistake. We had to move the set because this buck was coming out on this side of the tree, and where I was at, I wasn't going to be able to kill him. We still didn't get to trim a bunch this way. If he comes here, I'm going to have to pick a spot. Kind of worried about it, but I should have had this done.
So I'm sitting there and got a great wind, and right probably an hour before dark, I look up and I see a pretty big buck coming. And sure enough, it was a deer that I call the Wallahatchie buck. And the reason I call him Wallahatchie buck, he looked a lot like a deer I had out there. He was a mature deer, and he's coming right out to the water. So the wind's holding true, and now I got to make a decision. It's just not the deer that I set out to pursue. Definitely a shooter, probably a 6-year-old deer, big old body on him, and a great rack. But in Kansas, you get one deer, and I just made my mind up. I'm gonna do everything I can to go after Huckleberry. And I was pretty much set. If I didn't kill him, so be it. I would eat that tag, but I wanted to go after this deer. You know, over the next few sets, it was like everywhere I went, all I was doing is going to places where the wind put me. That's what I was trying to do. And then we were not hunting certain days and this and that, trying to be so careful, but everywhere I went, this buck I called the Wallahatchie buck would just show up.
Perfect entry, 3/4 mile walk, and cows, the neighbors' cows, got through the fence.
Well, as days went on, and many times I would be in a stand and we'd get a bad pull of wind, and I would have to get out, or we would have to go to another set, and then we'd get to the other set and the wind would pull again. And over time now, it's day after day, after evening, and there's no sign of Huckleberry. I even pulled out, we drove around, we'd be driving around in the mornings trying to lay eyes on him going back to bed, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't find the deer. And really, things started creeping into my mind, thinking, you know, there's a good chance that maybe he smelt us. There's a good chance that we were somewhere and got a bad pull, and you know, he was on to us. Maybe he moved from the farm. I didn't know.
I'm not a happy camper, let me just tell you. The weather, man, I mean, I can do guessing the weather.
You know, it's those doubts. And so I was trying to be more careful than ever. I mean, you know, it's 90 degrees and trying to play those winds when you get to evening and there's no wind. I mean, that's a tough deal. And but the only thing I could do is just keep moving forward, keep checking cameras, keep, you know, trying to catch up with him. And really, guys, my plan was simple. All I was trying to do is I was just trying to get in his way on his way to the soybeans. That's all. I figured pretty much I knew where he was bedding, but I was trying to use good access, and I was just trying to get in his way and hopefully get an error in this big deer.
Season, and really any time when you ain't got a very good wind. And what I mean by that, when the Weather Channel's saying it's going to be south at 3 miles an hour, if you're hunting a good deer, dude, just stay out. I will not do this again. We got a 20-mile-an-hour south wind, and it's hot, but I know the deer are gonna go that mile, they're gonna go them beans. And it's a good place to be intercepting right here, big transition area. And the biggest thing I like is we do got a good wind. Hoping we kill a buck named Huckleberry. Or something bigger.
Well, the day of October 3rd, I'll never forget it. I remember getting up that morning and I knew what was coming, and that was a cold front. And I'm gonna tell you, I wasn't confident, but the one thing I had is I knew that we were going to get a 20-degree drop. It was 90-some degrees, and we had a big front coming in. And the thing about it was, on October 3rd, the front was coming in, and it was going to cool off the next day. It was going to be like 69 for a high the next day, in the 40s for lows. It was going to be unreal. But I had a gut feeling as that wind was out of the south at 21 miles per hour. I had a gut feeling that Huckleberry, if he was still there, that he might get up as that front was coming in. Basically how this set worked was we would ride a buggy so far, we would walk probably a half a mile to the Arkansas River, and we would cross that Arkansas River, and right when we'd come out of that river, there was a hackberry tree that we had this set in, and that wind would blow right back over that river. You know, as we're sitting there, we got that wind, deer just start coming out. We start seeing different deer. We end up again, we lay eyes on a pretty good deer, a deer that I deemed as a 3-year-old, and things were working out pretty good. All I needed now was Huckleberry to do that same thing.
The buck we call Whoppy. It's a good deer, 140s. He's got major eye guard on that one side. Lopsided rack, man. Kind of female, that's what spooked him, got him on edge.
So I'm just kind of keeping my eyes on this coyote to see if these deer, how they're going to react, because I knew if Huckleberry was back in that bedroom and all the deer blew and took off, the night would be over.
Well, that Loppy's right here. Coyote's right out here in front of him. Just went up the hill. Now Loppy's coming back, but we just need one to do just that same thing. Brent, buck right here. It's him, Brent. It's Huckleberry.
Meh.
Daddy's a horse. A horse. Man. Oh my gosh, I'm shaking. I'll tell you something right now. It's hot. But the more we sat here tonight, I thought, man, we got a chance. We crawled in the bedroom with them, son. We crossed this river right here. And let me tell you, we talked about where I was going to shoot this deer, but he angled just a little bit that way, and I was afraid he was going to go straight up that hill. We still got 2 bucks right here. Jaylee, Gracie, Tracy, I love y'all. Daddy just smoked about a 175, 180. I'm shaking, guys. You talk about one of the best sets I've ever been in. This is it. Crawl right in the bedroom with them. River right here, bulletproof. And when I talk about bulletproof, I mean, we got an open field back here right across the river. You get that wind blowing, sneak in right here, and all the deer are paralleling you. You ain't got no footprints. We kept saying tomorrow that cold front's gonna be here, it's gonna be here. But you know what, a lot of times, I don't care even if it is warm, that day before can be your killer feel. Oh, I was a little low with the shot, but he is down right there, son. It's a big old boy, and I mean, his rack is huge, but you talk about a horse. He's long as a freight train. That's Huckleberry right there. Huckleberry. Well, we are down on the ground. Sets right there. I shot him right out here. I'm gonna find my arrow. I'm gonna pick up the trail right there. I'm still a little worried. I seen him go down, but I want to be careful here. You see blood? Oh, I think I see a rack. I think I see a rack. Thank my Lord and Savior right now. Thank you, Lord. It's hard to make a shot on a deer like that. Oh my gosh, what have we done? What have we done? Laid my brand new, I tell you what, I shot him with that Motive 7 brand new bow for us. Let me show you something, boys and girls. Oh my goodness. I've been waiting to get my hands on this buck, and he ain't got nothing broke. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm speechless, man. Oh, dear Lord, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh my gosh, this deer is gonna be mid-70s at least, but probably bigger than that. He's got a bump right here starting a G5. Little point there. Oh golly. I tell you what, folks. It ain't even fair what we get to do for a living. The good Lord just blesses us to get to do this. And I tell you, I was thinking tonight, I didn't have a lot of faith that we'd kill him tonight. I knew we had a great wind, and you can always kill something when you got a great wind, and especially a good farm like this. But
I was just sitting there thinking, you know what? I got to see the sun rise in that tree this morning, and then I was gonna get to see it set tonight. And I did all that, except I didn't get to see it set because it was too busy of a night. But look at that deer. That is a toad. Look at the main beams. We called this deer the long main beam 10 last year because he's main beams. And this year, just so you know the whole story, let me get this stuff out of the way a little bit. I seen this deer when we was flipping through. We had the motors out, and I'm gonna tell you the other thing, that killed this deer. But I had them motors out when we was going through footage, or the cameras, the pictures, and when this buck popped up, I said, there's my Huckleberry, and that name stuck. And we could have called him all kinds of things. We could have called him Freight Train because his body is enormous. Oh my goodness, look at this big old knife sticking out. Right, 2 of them. This deer probably gonna be in the 80s. I wanna thank all the BuckVentures staff, everybody for always putting up with me. And I get to do things like this. I tell you what, we laid down a stud here in Kansas. What a hunt. Well, when I look back at Huckleberry, you know, it's something that I cherish. I mean, I sat in this chair today and cherish it. Is deer like that don't come along that often. And when they do, sometimes you don't get that kind of relationship with them. I mean, here's a deer. I had a relationship with him all year, from when I got that velvet footage or that velvet picture of him, all the way to the night that I finally laid eyes on him. I don't know how many times I said his name. I don't know how many times I thought about him. I don't know how many times I daydreamed about him. But that is what's special. And you guys as hunters, you know what I'm talking about. When you can get that and it finally come together, and it doesn't all the time for sure, but that night when he tipped over backwards, that's what I live for. That's what I'm gonna keep living for as far as in the hunting woods. This deer was basically nocturnal all the time I hunted him, and a cold front gets him out of his bed, and that night I was fortunate enough to get an arrow on him. You know, if I can look back on anything as far as the teaching moment is, you know what, just do your very best. You know, have a plan, play the wind, but do not overlook those cold fronts. This buck is the epitome, this hunt is the epitome of a cold front. I think when we crossed the river that night, it was 91. I think time we shot that deer was like 81, so a 10 degree had dropped that night. But that cold front was on its way, and that to me will kill big bucks year after year.
Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one.
Well, hey guys, Jeff Danker here, and welcome to this week's Walk by Faith. And today, I want to kind of talk to you about a problem I have, and of course I want to bring it out of the Bible, Galatians 1:10. This is Paul speaking, and he says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And, you know, I bring this up because I've been a people pleaser all my life. I never wanted to let anybody down. And by doing that, I've let so many down because I would say yes when I should have said no. And remember, as Paul says right here, that we should be pleasing to God. We should be putting Him first in all that we do, and then the rest will play out. And that's what the Bible tells us to do, is put Him first and quit trying to please man. Hey, I'm Jeff Danker, and remember, as we always say, shoot by sight, walk by faith.